Greetings folks, my name is Ronwise Gamgee and welcome to Quick and Dirty Roleplaying. This is the first video of a possible series that I'm going to call Great GM Tools. The aim of these Great GM Tools videos is to present great mechanics or ideas found in other tabletop role-playing games that GMs can use in their own games either directly or as inspiration for handling stuff in their game that their current system of choice isn't handling very well. So the first great GM tool that I'm introducing are the Supermetric benchmark tables from the superpowered role-playing game Ascendant from Autark LLC. These tables can be found on DriveThruRPG.com for free. Go to the link in the description first, click on the full-sized preview, and download it so that you can follow along with the rest of the video. So starting at page 41, we get introduced to the concept of supermetric points, or SPs for short. SPs are a unit of measurement for various types of quantities, such as distance, time, speed, etc. There are two tables on the right-hand side that show the various quantities used along with their values at 0 SPs on the top table, which are considered base values, and at 5 SPs on the table below. Essentially, each SP represents a doubling of the quantity of the previous SP. For example, 3 SPs in distance is twice as far as 2 SPs in distance, but half as far as 4 SPs of distance. You can see for yourself in both parts of the supermetric values table on pages 42 and 43. The 3 parts of the supermetric benchmark table are found on pages 44 to 46. This table provides benchmarks with real-world references as to what a certain amount of SPs in a particular quantity means. This is especially useful for GMs like myself who have a hard time conceptualizing what a volume of 4,000 cubic feet looks like. In the benchmarks table, that would be considered 5 SPs of volume, which would be the equivalent of a backyard pool, which, I can now clearly see in my mind. It's also important to note that SPs scale logarithmically, meaning that you can't add them together like ordinary quantities. As shown in the first paragraph in page 43, 5 SPs of weight is 800 pounds, and 8 SPs of weight is 6,400 pounds. But 5 SPs plus 8 SPs is not 13 SPs, because 13 SPs of weight is 204,800 pounds, not 7,200 pounds. If you want to add together 2 quantities measured in SPs, you have to convert them to their real-world measurements first before you add them together, and then you refer to the supermetric values table to convert them back to SPs. If the volume falls between 2 SPs, then you would round. If it's at 0.5, you just round up. So how can a GM use this in their current game or any other game, you might ask? First off, it's a great reference used to hone your eyeballing skills with the aid of real-world references, the benchmarks, that is. Second, you can actually use basic math to figure out situations that might come up in game. For example, if you want to figure out how far your character can throw an object of a particular weight, you can cross-reference their weight capacity to determine how many SPs of weight they can lift and carry around. Second, determine the actual weight of the thing that they're carrying around and figure out its SPs and weight. Afterwards, you subtract the SPs and weight of the object that they want to throw from their SPs and weight of their carrying capacity to get the SPs and distance that they throw the object. In other words, it would be SPs of carrying capacity, which would be in the weight column, minus SPs of the object they want to throw, which should also be in the weight column, that would equal the SPs in distance thrown in the distance column. So say your character is strong enough to carry around 200 pounds of weight, and they want to see how far they can toss a 25-pound rock. 200 pounds of carrying capacity is 3 SPs in weight. A 25-pound rock is 0 SPs in weight. Then you get 3 SPs minus 0 SPs equals 3 SPs of distance, which when you refer to the distance column, it's 40 feet. And if the column is not there, you can just start, keep in mind the base amount of 0 SPs of distance is 5 feet. You double that, 10 feet. You double that, 20 feet. You double that, 40 feet. 3 SPs. So what if you want to see how far the same character can throw a baseball? If you scroll down to page 47, you'll find the negative supermetric benchmark tables that extends those SPs into negative values along with benchmarks for real-world references. So a baseball weighs 6 ounces, and that's minus 6 SPs. That means that our character from the previous example can throw a baseball 9 SPs of distance, because there are 3 SPs of carrying capacity minus negative 6 equals 9 SPs. Remember, when you subtract a negative, you're actually adding a positive. And 9 SPs of distance turns out to be half a mile, which is the height of the Burj Khalifa skyscraper in Dubai, which is the tallest building in the world. Another very common use for the supermetric benchmarks table is to determine how fast someone can cover a particular amount of distance. So say a character can move at a speed of 80 miles an hour. How long would it take them to travel 80 feet? In that case, the closest that you'd find on the speed column table would be between 64 miles per hour, which is 6 SPs of speed, to 128 miles per hour, which is 7 SPs of speed. And since 80 miles per hour is less than halfway between 64 and 128, or between 6 and 7 SPs of speed, you'd round down to 6 SPs of speed. Next, you convert the 80 feet into SPs of distance, which would be 4 SPs. Finally, you subtract the SPs in speed from the SPs in distance to determine the time it would take a character moving at 80 miles per hour to move 80 feet. In other words, SPs of distance minus SPs of speed equals SPs of time. So 4 SPs of distance minus 6 SPs of speed equals negative 2 SPs of time, which amounts to almost 1 second, 0.875. You can do that once again without even needing to refer to the negative supermetric benchmarks table, because you get your base value of 0 SPs of time, which is 5 seconds. You cut that in half, and then you cut that in half again. So you go 3.5 minus 1.7, then minus 1 SP is 1.75 seconds, and then minus 2 SPs is 0.875 seconds. Last exercise. This time we'll do knockback. Knockback is a time-honored side effect of super strong characters or creatures hitting smaller characters, creatures, or objects really hard in both superhero media and in fantasy. When viewed this way, knockback via punching or kicking really hard is a less efficient way of making an object travel at a distance than picking it up and throwing it. How much less effective, you might ask? Some GMs may say 50% less effective, and other GMs may say 25% less effective. Let's take the more conservative route and say that knockback is 25% as effective as picking up an object and throwing it. In terms of SPs, being reduced to 25% of effectiveness, or 50% applied twice, would be the equivalent of minus 2 SPs. The GM may also determine that 5 feet is the minimum amount of distance needed to apply knockback, and anything else or anything less wouldn't be meaningful enough to consider, meaning if you don't get at least 5 feet, no knockback occurs. So you've got Average Joe with 2 SPs of strength, who takes a swing at Average John, who weighs 200 pounds. That's 3 SPs of weight. We can take the formula mentioned earlier and include another -2 to SPs in order to determine knockback instead of throwing distance. So in other words, SPs of strength, weight column, minus SPs of target weight, or the target's weight, -2 is the SPs of knockback distance. So, you've got Joe's 2 SPs of strength minus John's 3 SPs of weight -2. That would equal a total of -3 SPs of distance, or just over a foot. If anything, Average John barely staggers Average Joe from his swing. Now, what if you replaced Average Joe with Spider-Man, who's not holding back? So, according to Marvel.fandom.com, Spider-Man's superhuman strength enables him to press lift many tons. For the sake of argument, let's say Spider-Man has 10 SPs in strength, which would allow him to lift and carry around 12 tons. So again, Spider-Man with his 10 SPs of strength lands a solid blow on Average John, who has 3 SPs of weight. So you get 10 SPs of Spider-Man's strength, minus 3 SPs of Average John's weight, -2 equals 5 SPs of distance. That's 160 feet, or half the length of a football field. Take the time to envision someone standing on one end of the football field, getting clocked by Spider-Man, flying through the air, and landing halfway across the football field. Realistically, I think the force of the punch would knock Average John's head clean off. But even if it was the case that he was much more resilient, being knocked back at that distance would also cause more damage, let alone if they were to crash into a wall beforehand. If the GM wants to make these determinations in the middle of their game, it would behoove them to print out the Supermetric benchmark tables, as well as having these formulas handy so that they can impress their group with the amount of verisimilitude that they're adding to the table. There are other formulas available in the Ascendant tabletop role-playing game for things such as vision clarity, maximum effective range of line of sight, hearing clarity, effective hearing range, maximum effective range of earshot, and so on. What I find great about these tables and formulas is that it practically eliminates the need to eyeball these sorts of things at the table once you've got it down packed. The GM can actually figure out how much of a conversation a character can hear at a dinner party standing 20 feet away from their target. Like with everything, this takes time and practice to apply these tools at the table in real time, but with the right preparation beforehand, such as working out certain calculations beforehand, the GM can use their prep as a baseline and eyeball from there. Such as, oh, it's twice as loud in here, that means you hear half as much. If you like or dislike anything you've seen in this video, please give it a like or a dislike and leave a comment. Subscribe if you want to support my channel, and if you really want to support my endeavors, head over to my Patreon and become an appreciated trooper. The link is in the description. Until then, folks, take care and play to find out what happens.